Hello everybody, this is Lance Hightower with Cryptid Brothers Investigations of Oklahoma. So, I know it's been a while since the last episode. I've been on break with the family and we just went away, did some things, and so I just took a break from the show for just a little bit here. So we have calls coming in every day. We probably get 5 to 6 calls every day. We have probably right now about 85 shows yet to post to you guys, and some are mind-blowing. So we just want to let you know we're back in the groove again. We're going to crank it up. We're going to be sending show after show after show to you guys, and Rob is excited to get some things to you guys with the sculptures coming. He's got Series 1. Series 2 is right behind that, so we're getting ready to get those out to the people that's ordered. In addition to that, we've had some glitches. I just didn't want to get it out to you guys and have all this trouble. So we're right around the corner with the website, promise, and some cool features with that. And it'll be slowly developing as we go through there once the website gets going. So let's just get right to the episode here. I'm excited to bring this one to you. A gentleman that contacted me, he's a deer hunter, which I am as well. And when he told me what happened, my jaw just dropped. And when he told me who unexpectedly saved him and protected him, my jaw dropped again. So let's go now to that interview that I did some time ago with this gentleman and what happened when he was deer hunting.
Yeah, it was also as a young lady had a similar thing happen to her in the early or mid-'80s where we were looking for... We've been there horseback riding down in, what they call it, land between the lakes down in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And she was lost. And we went in there looking for her and actually found her. She was injured. And she said these things attacked her. And she was hurt. The horse she was riding was hurt. And while we were looking for her, I hunt a lot myself. I come across an area, it was just overrun with deer sign. So I put it on my GPS, just thinking if I ever go back down there hunting or what, I'll find this area.
Right.
So back in the 90s there, I was down there for vacation in October, and I said, well, talking to my brother, I said, well, let's go hunting. And he said, well, okay, where do you want to go? You want to stay on the farm? I said, let's go down and try that spot that I found when that girl got hurt. So we went down there, and I got a tree stand on these tree lounges. I got up in the tree. I hunt 25 feet up, and I didn't even have time to put my safety belt on, and my tree stand got broke with me in it, and I got injured pretty bad, and something happened. I don't even believe it. And I've discussed it with that girl, and she says that's exactly what happened to her. Now I hear all this stuff about these things are mean and everything, about killing them. Well, this thing that helped me was not a killer. I'm just really mixed up about all this.
Well,
as I've heard these things mate in the fall. Well, I know this thing was a female. Because when she pulled me to her to protect me, she was covered on her breast area with, like, milk. She was, what do they call it, lactating?
Yes.
So do they have young and, they mate in the fall? How long do they carry these young before they give birth to them? Because this was in October.
Well, that's a great question you bring up. We're just kind of learning about all this. The fall is supposed to be the mating time. Now, when they have a birth time, we don't know the gestation of these things. But if she was lactating, that means she had a young somewhere. She had probably already given birth.
Yep.
And so I'm not sure where her young one was. But we think only, and we're just postulating that they don't stay... They remove these small ones very young. They're weaned off very quick, and they have to in order to survive. They've got to start, get big fast and start getting strength to keep up with the mother or and the movement that their clan or family goes into. So tell me a bit more what happened, if you don't mind.
And, well, I was, jumping off the tree stand. This tree stand that I have, it's a tree lounge. It'll support, I know, 800 pounds because we put it on there. And for it to be broke the way it was, something had to have pulled on it with such a force to break that thing. It just ripped one side completely off, and it took me backwards out of the stand. And I hit the ground. I got a dislocated shoulder. I had a closed head injury. For a long time, I'm thinking, did I just imagine what happened? Or because I lost my memory for years. I could remember nothing from my childhood. I still don't remember a lot of it because I got another injury back in '04. I got hit with an excavator. But, yeah, I'm just really mixed up about this.
Well, what...
This thing protected me
from
the ones that were trying to injure me.
Well, tell me what happened. How did the stand break and everything? I'm kind of lost here.
I think something grabbed it, pulled it, broke it somehow. Because it snapped to one side completely off and bent the other side. And I'm sitting in like a cradle on this stand, and I go backwards out of it to the ground. And once I hit the ground, I got the wind knocked out of me. I'm injured. I'm dizzy. And something is dragging me. And then this other one, I don't know what you call big feet or whatever, stopped them. I mean, it was like they were fighting one another. I thought they were going to fight over me. I had a pistol on me, but I couldn't get to it because my right arm was messed up. But it grabbed me. I mean, it was like I was a feather. It just pulled me right to her, like, whoop, there you go, right up against her. That's why, because my face, my arm, and the shirt, jacket I had, I was all covered with that milk she was lactating. She was covered on the front of her.
So she pulled...
I could see it.
She pulled you right into her, close.
Right into her, right up to her, yes. Put me right against her, like she was protecting me.
So what?
That's why I hear a lot of this kill them,
Yeah.
Yeah, after hurting you, fine, but this thing protected me. And this girl was telling the same story. The thing protected her from the other ones.
How many other
ones? And everybody, I don't know how many they were, because I was so disoriented. It was like I was looking at a movie that was going really fast in front of me. I was like almost passing out. I actually did pass out after, just a minute or so. But I know this thing protected me. And it took me out. It didn't leave me there. Some people that were camping in there, they were camping, all of a sudden, boom, I show up. So they don't know how I got there. The lady said it was just a matter of looking away, stirring the fire, and looking back, and I was laying there. So this thing took me out and dropped me there.
And this was in the fall?
Yeah, October. Mm-hmm.
How long ago was this?
This was in 94 when this happened.
Were you hunting with any partners at that time when you went out, or were you by yourself?
My brother was with me.
So had he had any experiences when he went out, or what did he think?
Nope. I didn't say nothing to anybody for a while. All they knew is I told them I fell out of the tree stand because I knew what this girl went through. So it's why,
sad.
I've been quiet about it, but I listen to your show when I'm driving, and I hear the one guy, Dave, I think it is.
Yes.
I know he's a hunter and everything. He's a shooter. He's got this killing thing right now, and that's the only reason I call, to let you know that they're not all bad.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think it's kind of like, and this is just kind of what we think, and I know Dave comes across as, like he'll shoot anything in sight, but he really isn't that way. He's a very responsible hunter. He is a good conservationist when it comes to animals and wildlife and woods and land. So, but he's good at what he does, and so. But we all respect the outdoors for sure. But I'm kind of with you. Right. The way we look at it is that some of these Bigfoot are like people. Some people are ornery and up to no good, and they want to do you some harm. And then there's the majority of people are pleasant. They don't want to harm anybody. They're cordial, and they just want to be left alone, go about their way, and you go about your way.
Right.
And that's the way we kind of view it. And that's why I tell people, don't just go out and pick a fight. You're
right,
you're going to ask for some problems, and you may be injuring something that could be protecting you. And I know that sounds strange, but that's the truth. Now, with his dogman creatures, we're still a big question mark there. They just don't appear to be too.
I don't know about them things.
Yeah. So let me ask you a couple more questions. When you were pulled backwards, you were in a reclining stand. How you were up 25 feet? How in the world, at 25 feet, did it grab you? I mean, did it climb a tree, or how did that? Because that's tough.
I don't know. It had to jump up and grab a hold of it and pull it down. Because I know I have a rope that hangs from my stand that's 26 feet long, and I climb up to when my crossbow moves. I know I'm where I want to be, and I just done that. I was getting ready. It's got a safety belt on it. I was getting ready to hook onto my safety belt, and all of a sudden, snap, and I went going backwards. And I'm thinking, how in the heck did this thing break? And it's, it happened so fast. You hit the ground. I weighed 260. I hit pretty hard, and I was just dazed and hurting, and then all this going on. I couldn't believe what was happening. I thought these things were going to kill me for sure. And I always carry a pistol with me, just in case something else happened. But there's no way I could get to it because my arm was so damaged. I couldn't reach it.
I wonder, thinking about this and hearing what happened, if this was a family, a clan in that area, and you were way too close inside their family area, their unit, their domain, and maybe because of her motherly instinct at that time, she was in a protective mode. I mean, who knows?
I don't know, but she sure saved me.
That is very, very interesting. When she put you close to her, were you standing up, or did she just pick you up? Was she on all fours? Do you remember?
I think she just bent over me. Like I was looking backwards, and when she grabbed a hold of me, it was like picking up a napkin. That's how strong it was. It just snatched me right up to her, and when she pulled me to her, I was looking right at her face.
Really?
I used to take care of orangutans.
Yes.
When I was in high school, and that's what I was looking at. It looked just like one of them. I mean, the way their eye was and everything. Exactly. I mean, the hair on them looks just like orangutan hair. And they were, I don't know, they were having a conversation or what they were doing, but they were communicating back and forth. I could feel every time she would make this noise, I could feel it in my body. The way she was mad too. And it's just the same way these orangutans would be. I would try to take them to the pen to put them up. If they didn't want to go, they weren't going. Because they were strong too. This thing is powerful. So when she snatched me up like that, it was like picking up a leaf off the ground and pulling me up there.
And you weighed about 260.
About 260, yeah.
Man, that is powerful. What did the language sound like?
I really can't, because I was so dazed. It was not like words. It was like sounds they were making. A different, sort of like apes do. They'll make a grunt like, or back and forth. That's the way it was. I could hear the other ones back there. And when she would do her sound, I could feel it. I mean, she would just kind of shake, and I would shake too. And that's what was hurting me real bad. Because she was, the strength in that arm, she had a hold of me pretty good. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm in trouble now.
So you were kind of in and out when she grabbed you close to her, or she was bent over you, and she kind of protected you. I know this sounds kind of strange because I'm sure you've thought of it numerous times, but was there any smell? With anything like that you can recall being that close up to her?
I couldn't smell nothing but blood because my nose was bleeding and my mouth was bleeding.
Oh, wow.
All I could smell was blood. But the milk where she had been lactating was on my arm and on my shirt, because when they took me in, they was looking at that like, what the heck is that? Where did that come from?
And you didn't say anything, of course.
No, I didn't say nothing. I wasn't going to say a word. I was in and out there for, a little while. I didn't say anything to nobody. Nobody's ever heard this.
So we're the first to hear this right now.
You're the first one, yeah. The only reason I've come out with this because I hear your program, Dave, talking about kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. It just kind of irritated me a little bit,
I understand.
I'm all right now with it,
Well,
you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, well, what he's referring...
If it wasn't for that thing, I'd be dead right now. I know it.
It sure sounds like it. I think what Wiley is primarily talking about is this dogman creature and not a Bigfoot. We definitely... I'm definitely of the belief that you leave something alone until it's acting on you, or you're just kind of backed into a corner and you feel so threatened that your life is in danger, then maybe, you got to do something. But
right.
He's
I
primarily...
would never shoot one unless I had to,
Exactly.
I know a lot of people want them, for science or whatever, but I would never shoot one unless it was try to do harm to me.
No, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. And I tell people, don't try to pick a fight with something that if it's not confronting you, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. And you pick a fight, you're going to pick a fight with not just one. You may pick a fight with whoever, how many are there that's hiding right behind a tree that you don't know. I mean, that's the problem. Where there's one, there may be more. And you might bite off more than what you can chew.
Exactly.
So,
like this area I went to, I found that day. See, I seen a big, what a buck scrape is. They scrape in the dirt.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I seen rubs on the trees. I said, wow, look at the buck sign. Then I seen this big giant. I mean, it had to be 10, 15-yard circle. It was like a scrape, and I could just smell the urine kind of smell of that. I'm thinking, wow, what a buck scrape, It's got to be the, dominant bucks in the whole area coming in this place. That's why I hit that on my GPS. I'm thinking now, is that their area? Are they doing like the bucks do? They come in here, urinate in a spot, and these females come in there and they pick them like that?
Well,
is that what I run into?
I don't know. That's the first I've heard of that, buddy. Now you've got me puzzled now.
Yep.
That's
There's a lot of things about that spot, and I wish I could find it again, because the only place I think they would know about it was that girl, and that's her family's old place there.
Did you ever go back and get what pieces were left of your stand?
Nope. Never went back.
Now, was this a climbing stand or a ladder stand?
Climber.
It was a climber, and they still was able to... Good night. I never thought...
It's called a tree lounge.
I know exactly what I looked at that stand some years ago. I was going to get one, just what you're talking about, a tree lounge.
Yeah, they're comfortable. I get up in it, I usually go to sleep because it's so comfortable.
Yeah, you're reclined back.
Yep.
Yeah, I know what...
right back in it. It's off from the tree. I mean, it says it'll support 1,000 pounds. And we put 800 pounds on it at the farm with feed bags. I put a chain around it with a pallet, and we set 800 pounds on it, and it didn't bust. So whatever busted that had to be pretty heavy or pretty strong.
So they may have pulled it down with that rope that you had attached.
I think they grabbed a hold of it. Something had to grab a hold of that, because that rope would have never... It was just a piece of... like twine with a snap like you put on a dog leash.
Oh.
That's all that was. That wouldn't have supported much.
Okay.
They had to have grabbed it, jumped up there and grabbed it, or jumped off a tree onto it, or whatever. But it just happened too fast. I didn't see nothing. All I heard was the snap, and I'm coming backwards to the ground.
Good
And when I hit it, it was all over with. I was dazed.
So this was the first time that you ever had, I mean, you'd never seen one before going out in the woods or anything like that. You had heard of this girl's encounter, but had you seen anything on game cameras, anything like that where you were out and about? This was like the first encounter that you
first
had.
Time.
Wow.
It's the first and only time I've ever had anything happen like that. The almost identical thing to what she said. She said this thing, once her horse was taken off from under her and she was assaulted, this thing helped her. And that's how we found her. She was just laying in there hurt.
And now
she kept telling everybody it's the thing run them off. She said wouldn't let them get to her.
And she was in that same vicinity.
Right there, yeah, right in that area. Because when we found her there, I seen all that sign around there. I pulled out my GPS thing and touched it. I saved that spot.
Wow.
That was the first time I'd ever been in there. We'd been in there riding, and she told me there was a pond back there. She said, we ought to go back there fishing, and I said, okay. And then she started riding off that day, and when she rode off, she just disappeared. I couldn't find her, so I went back, and I told her, well, where did she go? Which way did she go? And they said, that way. I went down in that way, and I couldn't find her. She just disappeared. I guess she went down in there a couple hundred yards, and that's when all that happened. So everybody just spread out with their horses. There was a bunch of us, different families all got together to go in there riding, and we just rode around on the roads in that place. That's a big place. And we just horseback riding in there, and we just spread out where we could see each other and just heading down through there, and that's the way we found her.
Now, was she someone that you knew prior to all this, or was she just was she a friend of a friend?
Just a new person. I never met her before until that day we went in there riding.
And now, was this like a horse stable? Is that what this was, or was this just
No, it was just a bunch of people that gets together and they went riding. Because we had horses down there, and we always just rode right on the farm, and word got around everybody was going to get together on the weekend, Saturday, and they were going to go down in there. They said to land on the river, so I didn't know what they were talking about. But then we was going and going. I'm saying, where are we going at? And everybody said, down on the rivers here. But it's called the LBL is what it is, Land Between the Lakes.
Land Between the Lakes,
but
yeah.
They call it, but they call it the land on the rivers, between the rivers.
Oh, wow.
That's why I didn't know where we were going, because I never heard it called that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How have you, over time here, and again, this was back in 95, you said?
94, 95, yeah, late 94 to fall of 94.
How have you dealt with this during that time, if you can't tell people? I mean, what have been your thoughts, or how have you dealt with it?
Well, I'm just more cautious of what's going on, and I'm in the woods now, and I don't go anywhere by myself anymore. Before, I just take off and go. Now, I don't do that anymore. I was a few years before I even went back hunting. I just didn't want to go anymore. I blamed it on my injury. I just said, I'm not hunting no more. I can't hunt, so I'm not hunting. But I just didn't want to go in there. I didn't want to deal with that again.
Well, I can't blame you at all for that. I mean,
that's close. That's very close to coming to death, right there.
Oh heavens, yes. That's way too close. And you were by yourself. I mean, you were with your you had another partner there, but he was at another location.
Yeah, he was on the other side of the road. He was quite a ways from me. Yeah. He didn't know all this had happened until was supposed to meet back at the truck. They already took me back to the hospital. He didn't know what was going on. He sat there and tried calling me and nothing.
Wow.
And then somebody there had my cell phone. They kept ringing and ringing, and they finally answered it, and they told him where I was at, that I got hurt, that I fell out of my tree stand, and that's when he come there.
I see.
And that's what everybody thinks, I fell out of my tree stand, and that's the story.
So have you known anyone else and yourself? Have you heard of anybody else going back there and having a similar incident happen?
Nope. Me and her was the only ones. I just thought it was kind of weird, you know, same spot, her telling that story, and then years later I go in there and this happens.
How old was this young lady?
Oh, man, I don't know how old she was. Maybe early 20s, maybe.
Oh.
You know, she told what happened to her, and nobody believed her. And, you know, when she told the story, I said, yeah, right, you know, okay, whatever. And I didn't tease her about it or nothing, but it was just, I didn't think anything like that would ever happen. I think she must have hit her head or something and had a dream. Oh, yeah, really. Now I know different. But I hear them talking about it, I don't say nothing. I'm just saying, well, whatever, believe what you want, but you better stay out of there. I think they still go in there riding and back in there, but I just tell them, you going in there, you better watch what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's all I got
sure.
to say to them.
Well, and that's the thing, is that I'm sure these things, I mean, you were up in the tree stand and you had no clue. I mean, it snuck up there and had you down in seconds. So that tells you a little bit of how fast, how sleuthy they are, and how quiet. And it is astounding to me.
And I'm pretty aware of everything. You know, I've been in the military, everything. I just don't get in a tree and go up. You know, I look around, listen a little bit. I just don't walk straight to nothing. I take my time getting there. I had no idea anything like this was in there. None. And I was attacked in a matter of minutes. But it don't take long to get that stand put together, put on a tree, and start climbing.
No, I remember that stand. It shouldn't take that long at all.
It goes up the tree quick.
Yep. It's the design of that particular one is a lot easier than some of the ones we have today. I remember considering getting that stand. So you're right. It's a really easy stand to assemble on a tree and then start climbing pretty quick. So that's interesting. How far? Yeah. So this place where you had this incident happen, how far is this from where you live? And you don't have to give where you live, but how far is it?
Oh, I live in Michigan. That's where I live.
Oh, okay.
But my family lives down there, and it's probably 40, 50 miles away from where the farm's at.
Wow.
They live over in the western Kentucky area.
Okay.
Or about that area.
Wow. Well, I can see where, for sure, it's a little troubling and disconcerting as far as, you know, where your thoughts lie, whether, you know, are they helping people, are they hurting people? And again, I guess my thoughts go back to, it's kind of like humans. You got some people that want to hurt you, and the majority of people don't. And I think that really, in many respects, I think these creatures are no different. I think that you've got some that are very ornery, they're up to no good, that they want to hurt you for whatever reason. But, you know, we get back to maybe you set up really close inside this family clan area where they actually do their living, and where they've set up for so long that you were right in the middle or right on the edge or whatever it was. You were way too close, so you may have had a male just jump up and take you down and teach you a lesson or something, and the female, thank goodness she was there.
Yep. So, exactly. Wow. And then that big scrape thing, that's what, you know, I've been thinking about that for many years. Is that a way of them finding their females like the bucks, the deer do?
That's an interesting concept. Was there any prints in that?
Not that I could see. It looked just like a scrape area. I didn't walk up into it, you know, walk around. I just
But it was
observed
huge
it from a distance. But you could smell it. You know, like a buck scrape. If you walk up to it and get close to it, you could smell the urine smell and the musky smell. I was probably 30 yards from it, and I could smell it. That's what I was thinking. I got every buck in a 100-acre area coming to this one area. So I'm going to shoot some tonight for sure.
Right.
But I didn't get a chance to.
So this was an evening hunt for you, right?
We got there about 1 o'clock, I think, 1:30.
Okay, so it was going to be an evening stand hunt or a late afternoon.
Yeah, right. Yeah, late afternoon, evening. I was going to get there enough time to everything settle down, you know, before they started stirring.
What time of the day did this occur? I mean, was this like a midnight?
Not. Well, I didn't even have time to put my safety strap on to hunt. I figured 2 o'clock, because it don't take me long to get there.
Wow.
Yeah, I just went up the tree. I mean, I stopped climbing, seen my bow come up off the ground, and I pulled my bottom platform up so it didn't fall. My feet that I stand up on when I take my stand up, I just picked that up, and there's a safety strap, like a belt to it, safety belt. I was just grabbed that and ready to put it together so I could turn around, I wouldn't fall out. And then I usually put one to the tree also, you know, a double one, because I don't want to fall out of the tree that high.
Right.
But I didn't get time to do that. It happened that fast.
My gosh.
So they must have watched me come in, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah, sure sounds like it. That's a horrific encounter for sure, and it's just what a way to find out that these creatures exist. You know, you have something pull you down, and you not only are you suffering from your injuries, but my gosh, who knows what would have happened had she not helped you?
Yeah. Oh, I probably wouldn't be here. There's just no way. So everything was carrying on, and I know there was more than one there because she was battling with something else. And I knew she was mad because the way the sound she was making, the way she was lunging, I know she was pushing it away or what, but every time she did, the force from that arm that was holding me, she was putting a force, squeezing to hold me, and it was hurting me worse. I couldn't breathe as it was because it knocked the wind out of me. And I was all dizzy, and it's like I was trying to pass out, and I'm looking right up at her face. I could see her eyeball moving and everything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That had to be an incredible sight, that alone. I mean, everything happened so fast with you hitting the ground, and then you said when you hit the ground, something was dragging you.
Yep. I think one of them grabbed a hold of me. I don't know if it was what took me out of the tree. It dragged me for just a little ways, and then I could hear all this commotion, and then I got snatched up. It's like a feather off the ground. When I didn't know what was going on.
This commotion, did it sound like monkey sounds, or was it a lot of
sort of like I watched TV, you know, how monkeys, when they get to fighting one another, these sounds. But I think I was getting ready to pass out, and it was like echoed, or some of it sounded slow-mo. You know, I was really disoriented. That's why I'm thinking, did I dream all this? There's just no way. And then when I seen my jacket that I had, it was messed up. But it still had that, you know, if you pour milk, sweet milk on a piece of cloth, and it gets sticky?
Yes.
That's what it was.
Wow.
So I know when I seen that coat, I knew. And my brother said, well, you want to go back in there and get your tree stand or whatever? I said, leave it. It'd never be fixed anyway. Just leave it.
Did you notice, and I'm just asking here, was there any hair stuck to your jacket aside from the milk stains, the stickiness?
Not that I could see. I don't think there was anything on there.
And you were let...
I know my face was right there. I could see him. I seen the nipple. It was a light tannish pink, like, you know, like seen hogs, like when the little one's been nursing on her, how they look, that color they get.
Yep.
And she must not have had a one that was nursing on her anymore or something, but the front of her was just all wet, just like she was covered with it, like she was dripping, lactating, or whatever. It was all over her. She was soaking wet on the front of her.
Wow.
But I couldn't smell anything or nothing. All I could taste and smell was the blood.
That's incredible. When you were dropped off at this camp, do you know how far that camp was from where your stand was at?
I have no idea. Nobody ever told me where it was. They just said they picked me up there. I said, well, I guess I must have walked out and just collapsed there, I guess. I don't know. I've never pushed the issue, asked a bunch of questions, because then people would start to think, well, what the hell happened to him? Did he walk out, or what's going on here? You start asking a bunch of questions, and people are going to start snooping, asking more questions.
Exactly. That was my next question. Had anyone talked to you after that or anything? But then again, you didn't say anything. That's probably why.
No, I never said anything. The doctors asked me a bunch of questions. I said, no, I just fell out of the tree stand. That's all I remember. Hitting the ground and then waking up over there. That's all I remember. And they just left it at that. I had a lot of doctors ask me so many questions because I've just lost my memory from my childhood. I don't remember none of that. And then I got hit on the head again. I got an industrial accident. And since that, some stuff has come back. I can remember a little bit. But I've never forgot this, and I always remember it. Every time I see the woods, I remember it. And I listen to your show, and I hear these people talking on there, and I know exactly what they've been through, the way they feel. Well, people probably, ridicule them over it.
They do. That brings up a very interesting point, and I'm glad you brought it up. You've listened to some of these shows. What is I think I know the answer, but I'm still going to ask. In your opinion, what do you hear if these people are telling the truth? What do you hear when you hear these stories?
Well, a lot of them, some of them I hear, I don't know, but there's some of them on there, you can tell when they're telling it. It's still in them. They just like it happened minutes before.
Yes.
They're living the whole thing over again. And they're mixed up, they're afraid, and they don't want to go tell a lot of people because they're going to make fun of them. Say, oh, you crazy, ain't no such thing out there. But I'll tell you, they're there. And they're not all bad. At least one of them isn't anyway.
Well, I'm so glad I called you and you called us first here, because I'm sad. I'm glad that you lived through what you did, and it was a terrifying event that happened. But you lived. But I'm glad you called to share this because of that protective female. That's a very interesting and kind of an interesting twist to an attack that you don't hear about too many of these attacks, but when you do, it's very interesting to have one that attacked and then one that protected. So there is a caring nature, at least that some of them possess. And again, it could be just the males get that way, and that's their instinct when it's too close to a family clan or a unit or a female that has an infant. We don't know, but that's what I'm thinking now.
They didn't mean to attack me, but maybe we got too close to where they live or where they do this mating ritual or something like that. That's why that she was attacked. That's why I was attacked. But they ride in there all the time, and nobody else has ever had a problem except right there in that spot.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of puzzled with the that cleared ground that looks like a deer scrape. I'll have to do some checking on that.
Yeah, that part's puzzled me because I've heard they mate in the fall, and if she was bred in the fall, how long do they actually carry? Do they carry 9 months like humans do?
Well, that's the part.
The young would be, very still young. She's still lactating, and something's still nursing on her.
That's the part we don't know. I've talked about this book before. There is a book out there, and it's a very interesting book, but it's by an author is Autumn Williams. It's called the Enoch, a Bigfoot story. And in there, one of the long-term witnesses, he goes by Mike in the book. I'm not sure what his real name is, but they kind of talk about that briefly. But, we don't know. That's a very interesting period, this gestation period. We don't know how long they carry the young. If it's longer than the typical human, 9 months, we just don't know if it's shorter, if it's longer. I have a feeling, as most animals and I guess you could say a primitive being like this, they tend to acquire skills and growth very fast once they're born, because it's a matter of survival. And these things, they don't have an ability to have manners. They just act. By acting immediately without thought, that allows them to survive. They don't have time sometimes to necessarily ponder. They just know how to act. And so they're very immediate in their response. And I don't claim to be an expert, but I have enough long-term witnesses that continue to relay some information to me. And it really made sense to me after them relaying that to me. It just, that they've seen these, they react. There's no, we've been brought up as humans to have manners, courtesy, please, and don't do this and don't do that. Whereas these creatures just act with impulse. It's a matter of survival for them. And so that made sense to me when they were describing that to me. So I just kind of thought, well, that's a very interesting concept. I do like that. That makes sense. So I don't know. I mean, you that's a great question, and these are things that maybe over time we can find out. It would be very intriguing to know.
Right.
Well,
if they carry like humans do 9 months, this thing would only be, 4 months old in the fall? So it still have to be pretty small.
Right. I mean, if they mate in the fall, and they, again, I don't know if they're, there is the concept, again, based on that book I just got through describing, is that if they mate in the fall, then there is a time that they give birth, and a lot of them give birth, and they tend to go to certain regions of the United States to give birth, like it's a birthing ground and a finding a mate ground. So again, that's just postulated, but could it be so? It's possible. It's possible, and it's very likely.
Anything's possible.
Absolutely, that's just it.
Yeah, but that's happened. I don't doubt anything anymore.
I don't either. My mind is more open than it ever has been regarding these creatures and what they're capable of, what their intent is, where they came from. I mean, I'm really open-minded more than I ever have. So, yeah.
But I'm stuck on your show. I'm hooked on. That's all I want to listen to when I'm going on the road.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I really do. Thank you so much. One more time, whereabouts in Kentucky was this the southeast, northeast, northwest?
That's in the western part of Kentucky.
Okay.
Where the LBL is. What's between Kentucky and Tennessee? It runs down there between the two lakes. Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley, I think it is. That's where this big area is. I call it the LBL, land between the lakes.
Yeah, that's what a lot of
people down there call it the land between the rivers, or the river land. That's what they call it.
Wow. Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing it with us. And you've never been on any other shows before. This is the first one, correct?
No, it's the first time. I probably wouldn't have said anything, but I listened to Dave talking about shoot the thing, kill them. They're no good. It just worked at me. That night when I called, he just was working at me. I was listening to it, and I'm thinking, I got to call over and tell them that, that they're not all bad. You just don't go in the woods and shoot them.
Right.
But if they do something to you, yay, do what you got to do, but just don't go in there and level out on them just because they're there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And again, I think Dave is primarily considering more of this dogman creature and not necessarily a Bigfoot in doing that.
Yeah, I agree with him that. Them dogs and them coyotes and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, those
we're having a problem with them up here in Michigan right now. The coyotes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you do. I'm sure it's really.
Yeah.
You still there are plenty up there for sure.
Oh yeah, they're starting to come into the towns, and they got pictures of them in all in the communities, the townhouses, and everything, and they're starting to chase kids walking to school in the morning. Got packs of them.
Wow, that's when it becomes a little dangerous for sure, right there.
Yep. There's parents driving the kids to school now, and parents are walking the little ones. They don't have transportation to drive them in the mornings because they only got one vehicle, so parents are walking them to school. And I got the one lady I was seeing the other day, I seen a gun on her hip. And I said, well, is it that dangerous walking to school? And then she said, well, them dogs running around here, it is. I said, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I said, well, you better know what you're doing. You pull that thing and start shooting it around kids in these houses and stuff, you're going to hurt somebody else.
Oh, absolutely.
And she just acted like it didn't matter, She just started walking on.
Before we end here, do you have any last parting words or anything you'd like to share to anyone out there that, with everything you've been through?
No, not really. Just everybody just be careful going in the woods because them things are out there. I never thought they was, but they are. I'm a believer now.
Well, and I'm so glad that...
and share this with Dave.
Oh, I will. He when he doesn't get a chance to be on the show, or the rest of the brothers, they listen to every episode. They do. And so I'm sure he'll hear it for sure. And I will tell him personally that kind of what we talked about as well. And
right.
But thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, sir, and thank you for sharing with us the first time and sharing this encounter, this terrifying encounter that happened to you. I'm glad that you made it, and I'm so thankful for this female Bigfoot in protecting you. And there's obviously...
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and there is a caring nature, obviously. There is a caring, protective nature. We don't understand them fully, but I've always suspected that. I think it just depends on if you're catch them at the right time, if that was just kind of their living grounds and you were too close, and maybe the alpha males didn't like that at all. So whatever reason,
right.
And I'm so sorry for that other person that had their attack as well. So
right.
That had to be horrific for them as well. But thank you again. And this is my number. If you ever have anything you want to talk, just call anytime.
All right, I will do. If you need to know anything, just call me.
All right, sir. Take care, and thank you again.
You too. You guys be careful out there.
We shall, sir. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Talk to you later.
You betcha. Bye.
Okay, bye.
So I wanted to follow up with a little bit of post-commentary here regarding this particular encounter that this gentleman called in with. I found it interesting that he had never told anybody. These shows were relatively new to him, and he had just kept it quiet because he knew ahead of time that from a previous incident that had happened in that same area, this person I think went through a lot of ridicule, and he saw that initially, and he himself said that he didn't quite believe this person of this incident, but now he felt kind of remorseful that what he thought from this person saying what they said of the incident that happened where he had this horrific incident. A couple things that I thought was interesting with this encounter is that he was bow hunting, and we've heard a lot about bow hunters come up missing and injured and have a lot of encounters. Now, he did have a sidearm with him, which I fully believe and concur that people should have while they're bow hunting. So, unfortunately, though, in the bow hunting regulations, unless you have a concealed carry, you're not typically allowed to carry one, but you need to check with your regulations on that. But this ladder stand, so there's different ways. So for some of you that don't deer hunt, I'll kind of explain what he was going through here. There's different ways if you hunt from a tree. When you're deer hunting, you can use different stands. There's a ladder stand that you lean up against a tree and then you secure at the top with straps or locks, and you climb up a ladder and then you sit at the top. And they're somewhere around 15 to 20, anywhere from 12 to 20 feet. Then there is an attach-on or a clamp-on stand that you have to climb the tree. You can use what's called tree climbers. And it's like little ladders or pegs. You climb it up, and then you get to the top of where you're going to be at whatever height, and then you strap it onto the tree and you secure it with a fastener or a lock or something of that nature. Then you have what's called a tree climbing stand, and this is what this gentleman was using when he said that he was yanked out of the tree. This particular tree, and there's variances in how a tree climber stand looks. There's so many different designs. This particular one was called the lounge, and I remember it some years ago. And typically on a tree climbing stand, you have to face the tree. I was trying to get a mind's eye of what exactly happened, and so I think this is what happened. If you're thinking what I was thinking, how did you go backwards when the tree is behind you? And so how it happened is that with a tree climber stand, you attach it to the tree, and there is a lower portion that's kind of, you secure your feet in, and then you sit on this larger stand that's going to support the majority of your weight. In this case, the lounge that had this soft canvas seat in it. So you sit on the edge of this, and you raise, your feet are secure in a lower stand that's locked, that your feet are resting on, and you pull up with your feet while sitting on the edge of this larger stand portion, and then you push down with your feet. It locks it kind of in place on the tree, and then you're able to pull up on the larger piece that you were sitting on. So it's kind of like an inchworm. You're inchworming up this tree. And with this particular stand, it's really easy to do, quite quick, and I think he was fairly proficient at it. And I thought it was interesting that he said he was very stealth-like in the woods. You know, you stop, you look around, you're quiet, you just don't, walk out there indiscriminately. So that's kind of how we get in our tree. I kind of stop, listen, look around, stop, listen, walk a little bit. You just don't just barrel off and start walking. So I found it very interesting that he was taking his time. He was very attentive to the area. He was just making sure to be quiet, but he himself did not hear anything. Super quiet. So I found that very interesting based on the fact that what happened as soon as he got to the height of where he was. Now, at 25 feet up in this tree, that's quite high. Now, every hunter is going to get at any height that they want, whatever is most comfortable. Typically, you want to get up high in a tree because if the wind swirls around in these thickets, you don't want your scent. As much as you try to cover your scent, the human scent still whirls around in thick tree lines and thickets, and just a little bit of scent can spook a deer. So if you get high enough in the tree, you stay above what we call scent line. And so at 25 feet, that's actually quite high. That's about the height that I hunt at, 25 to sometimes 30, 35 feet, which is very high for a hunter. But it definitely secures that your scent is not going to be on the ground, and therefore you can have more wildlife walk underneath you, and you can see more of the game below you. And you have a better distance to see the game coming, of course. So at 25 feet, what happens is, as a hunter, as you're going up with a tree climbing stand, the first thing you want to do while you're still facing the tree, you're sitting on the edge of your stand, is you have a line that you secure your safety harness before you start doing anything. The safety harness usually is a strap that attaches to the tree, and it has like a carabiner, and then you have like a vest on that has like a bungee line or a strap, and it's kind of right in the middle of your back would be as far as this strap, and it has a carabiner. So you kind of secure both, and you do it while you're facing the tree. You've not yet turned around to sit in your tree climbing stand. And I believe that's the point where he said he was standing up. So if you can imagine again, his feet are in this little version of this stand that his feet are locked into, and he's standing on that. It's secure. And so he's standing inside this his other stand, and he's getting ready to latch his carabiner to the strap of the tree, and that's when the ladder stand just went back. It broke off the tree, and it went backward, and that's how he was able to go backwards, not landing into the tree, of course, but going backwards, which would be forward technically if he was in his stand facing forward, but he went backwards. 25 feet fall at a gentleman weighing what he said he weighed, that's a hard landing to the ground. In fact, that's dangerous. You could break your neck, break your back, pelvis. You could have brain hemorrhage, concussion. All kinds of things could happen. So being that this was in the fall, and there may have been a lot of leaves on the ground, soft ground, luckily there was no heavy rocks that he would have punctured a lawn and broke a rib, but he did have some dislocation, he said. And either way, that's a hard fall. So for him to be as quiet as he was, and he's still he's kind of paying attention to the sounds around, and then all of a sudden, just with no warning, the stand just went backwards. It broke off, and he landed, and then immediately after, something grabbed his foot and was dragging him. I can only imagine, and of course it gets sketchy from here, exactly what was doing it, but let's just say it was probably a male Bigfoot that this occurred with, and it was not happy. Now, what would it have done with him? I don't know. We talked about this later. It was not happy. We don't know the circumstances. Had it been shot at over the years, earlier that season? Was this in an area that was too close to other family members or its hunting ground? We don't know. This was kind of a first time he was in this particular area, and he chose it because it was just a different area, and it was thick, and there was a lot of deer sign. So what would have happened? We just don't know, had it not been for this female Bigfoot. And that's what we're going to say, being that there was breast milk, and he could see that there was this Bigfoot had breast. And I found it very interesting that this Bigfoot was protecting him so close. She had him almost like in a bear hug, over him. And that it sounds like, and we're only speculating here, that there was others around based on the chattering, or maybe there was just that one. Again, we're only speculating here because it gets sketchy. He was kind of in and out. He had passed out. His vision was kind of blurry, but he could hear all this, the clicking sounds. He didn't say it sounded like monkey sounds. He said it was more of grunts, clicks, and what we would call, I imagine, a kind of a smattering of what we call samurai chatter. So it wasn't so much a monkey sound as it was maybe this communication and clicking and grunting for this female Bigfoot to stop this male, or who knows how many other males, we don't know, from dragging this guy off. What would have happened? We don't know. I don't even want to think what would have happened where they would have taken him. He had a revolver, but everything happened so fast that he said he didn't have time. He was just completely dazed. So this female Bigfoot was in a caring capacity, in a protective mode, and she was shielding him from the others and practically saved his life. And now she obviously had milk that was thick on her breast and the hair, and it was all over him. And he was awake enough, he was lucid enough that he was right in her face. She was just smothering him to protect him. And he said he was face to face and he could see her eye and it was looking up. He said the amount of strength that this female Bigfoot had was incredible. It was almost like crushing him even further with his injuries. But, she was protecting him so tight based on, again, was there one Bigfoot that was attacked him, or were there's one or two or three? We don't know. And I kind of prodded after the interview just a little bit more, and again, that's where it gets sketchy, just because he was kind of in and out of consciousness. So, and this went on. He doesn't really know exactly how long this went on for, but it seemed like an eternity. And then he doesn't remember much. After that, he was at this camp, and how he got there, he doesn't know to this day. He said he's lost some of his memory, and that's very typical of a heavy concussion. And you even see this in minor car accidents or fender benders, where people will temporarily lose their short-term memory. Long-term memory is there, but there are cases where when someone, if you hit hard enough or get impacted hard enough with a severe concussion, then you can lose some long-term memory. So some of his long-term memory, as you heard from his childhood, he had lost. It comes and goes. He remembers kind of deja vu moments, but he had lost it. So he had to hit really hard. And at 25 feet, absolutely. That was a hard impact. The amount of force, the G's of force on impact, even on a leafy October, dirt. It was in the afternoon around 2 o'clock. And I found that interesting too, that this was midday. It wasn't early in the morning, or wasn't late at night. This was midday. So this was a midday attack. And another feature I thought was interesting is that he talked about he came upon this large scrape. Now, for many of you that aren't hunters, I'll explain just what a scrape is. A deer scrape is something that usually male deer, or what we call bucks, the ones that grow antlers, that they will take their horns during the fall when the mating season is for deer, and the female deer are called doe. And so the bucks, you'll usually find a trail. And so what they'll do, they don't know how many female deer are in the area. And so also the other bucks in the area don't know how many other bucks are in the area. So along trails, these deer will take their horns, and usually it's under a branch that's about 4 feet to 5 feet off the ground, maybe even lower sometimes, but 4 feet is about average. And it'll be like a lick branch. And everything revolves in mating around scents, urine scents, gland scents, musk scent type of smells. And so usually around trails you'll find these scrapes. And the buck deer will take its horns and scrape out an area on the ground anywhere from, I've seen them as small as 12, just very small, minimal, 12 to 14, 20 inches in diameter, all the way up to 4 feet in diameter. And so this particular scrape, he said, was quite large. Now, there is such a thing as a community scrape. And the scrape is where the male deer will lick the branch, and he'll kind of urinate in this after he's scraped this area with his horns. Now, typically, the bigger the horns, you'll have an area that's a little bit larger in the scrape diameter. That's just kind of common and typical. A community scrape was where there's so many bucks in an area competing for mating that one particular scrape kind of blends into the next scrape, kind of blends into the next scrape. And so instead of a 2 to 3 foot diameter scrape, you have a 6 or 7 or 8 foot diameter scrape. That's quite a large scrape. I've only seen one, and I think it was only like 7 feet in diameter, but it's where one scrape blends into the other. And now I didn't get into the exact size and diameter with this gentleman, That may have been the case here. I don't know. He just found it unusual as a seasoned hunter that I'm going to assume he knew what a community scrape was, and what he saw was totally different. That's why he mentioned it. This gentleman is wood savvy. He's been a hunter for years. And so this was the first time he saw anything like this. And in my mind, when he said that, I was picturing a 10 to 12 foot diameter cleared out area that was very musky and smelled like urine. Now, when he said that, deer urine, whether it be doe or buck, during that mating season has a very musky scent. But he said this was a very odoriferous urine. And when he said that, I assumed it was more like a human ammonia smell, the way he said it. I did not get too specific into that scrape so much because I just kind of thought that it might have been more of a community deer scrape. But I don't know if it was made by any Bigfoot or not. I don't know what the purpose or the meaning would have been. That would have been the first time I would have heard that, as I indicated. Was there any association? I don't know. Again, I've never heard of this before, so I don't know what the association would be, if there's any at all. I just don't know if it was made by Bigfoot. If so, what was the purpose? Was it mating purposes, or was it a mock scrape for a deer to bring them in? Because these scrapes are used to attract females, and the females can smell the urine of the buck, and they go, oh, okay, there's a buck in the area, there's there's a potential mating partner, and then the young bucks go through there and they smell the male urine and the buck urine, and then they think, okay, I don't want to compete with this guy in this area. There's some other guys here, so I may want to stay out of this area. So both sexes of deer, it's kind of like an indicator, a message, who's in the area, how many potential mates, and that's kind of how they use these scrapes and lick branches and etc. in the area to know. So again, is there any association? I don't know. That was a very interesting comment that he made there. So, in listening to this one here, it just and as he said, he just kind of kept this quiet since 1994, 95. He had told, I think, a couple people, but as soon as he realized he may get some ridicule, he just stopped. It sounds like he had coped with it somewhat well compared to some other encounters, especially the encounter of the Ohio Bigfoot attack, episode 24. And because this gentleman didn't know that the Bigfoot existed and he gets yanked out of the tree, but I think part of his coping, unfortunately, was due to his injuries. He was in and out. He was of unconsciousness, so he wasn't fully aware of every second. And so in an odd way, that may have helped him not see all of the detail and the dynamics of the emotion and the sheer size of what was dragging him. And that actually probably helped in this coping in an odd way. And over the years, he sounded very matter of fact. He had kind of put this attack in a certain place in his mind. He doesn't go back to that area, didn't even go back to get a stand. He just left it. And as you heard, this was in that LBL area, land between the lakes, or as he said, some of the locals call it land between the rivers or the bodies of water, and Kentucky area. So he still goes out into the woods, but as I indicated to him, going with a buddy still is important, but hunting with a buddy with you is more important. And there was a buddy that went with him in a separate area, but this particular gentleman, they found him at a campsite, and he had this white residue milk still all over him, and they didn't know what it was. And he said the doctor, of course, as you heard, was poking and prodding, and what happened, and he just said, I fell out of a stand. And I fell out of a stand. So it's almost like other people that were interviewing him knew, especially at the hospital, maybe knew something else was going on, but he didn't want to say because he didn't want to be viewed as a nut. And I find that, a common theme with people that have these horrific and terrifying encounters, that they instantly want to talk to someone desperately and share this desperately to someone that'll just listen, and that they're not crazy. But at the same time, they come to a realization in milliseconds that, wait a minute, if I share this, I'm going to be viewed as a quack, crazy, nutty, hallucinating, all the above. And they're very careful. And so by keeping this bottled up, he just felt that he had to tell. Of course, now, as you heard, he felt very compelled, because he felt that Wiley on previous episodes was just kill, kill, kill. And I know Wiley more than anybody, and he's really not about that. Wiley is a very responsible person with firearms, more than I've ever seen. And so we are the mindset, leave it alone if it leaves you alone. And you just don't want to pick a fight. That's just it. You don't want to pick a fight. Now, in this particular case, this gentleman didn't pick a fight. He was just minding his own business, going up in the tree, and all of a sudden, bam! He goes backwards. All hell breaks loose. The stand and pieces and metal are coming down. He lands with a thud, and he's just dazed, like, what the hell happened? So he didn't pick any fight in this particular case, and this is why I say, know your surroundings, know the woods. He did take a firearm, but he couldn't use it. So, that's what there's not much else you could have done. So thank God that this female Bigfoot came in to protect him. So not all these stories that you hear is about a bad Bigfoot gone rogue. There are those, I believe, for whatever reason. I always say that they don't do anything without intent. Even though this gentleman was minding his own business, was he in an area where it was too close to a family of Bigfoot or a clan or groups? It was too close to hunting ground? Was it too close to little ones? We don't know. We have heard that the fall is the time for mating for these Bigfoot. So I don't know if hormones were possible in this equation. I don't know. There's a lot of questions here, but I'm so glad that he was able to share this. It sounded at first he was reluctant, but I'm glad he called. He just said that he had to tell the story because of this particular family or clan. One did not want him there, but one protected him. And so he was just confused. And so he was more confused once he realized these were real, and he just had to share it. And I thank him so much for doing that, because, as I say, we can learn from every encounter and every story that people have. And there's many of you listening right now that have probably had an encounter, and you're just on the fence whether to share or not. And if you want to share, just give us a call anytime on the 866-306-8085 number. Allow us a couple of weeks to get back with you. I do try to get back with people in the order that they call. So if I don't call you immediately, hang in there. We will get to you. I have called everyone back, but when we get backed up with calls, it takes some time to get to you. But I will get back with you. I promise. So I want to thank you for listening. We appreciate you guys so much for subscribing and sharing. And for those of you that call in, that have the courage to call in, we appreciate you. We're honored that you would share your story with us. So until next time, this is Lance Hightower with Cryptid Brothers Investigations of Oklahoma. Take care.